History tells us that Isaac Newton explained the universe with certainty: motion, gravity, cause and effect. But what if that story is incomplete? What if, hidden inside Newton's private notebooks, there existed equations so strange that they described a world where particles behave like ghosts, where reality collapses when observed, and where certainty itself is an illusion? What if quantum physics wasn't a modern discovery at all, but a forbidden one, buried 3 centuries ago because humanity wasn't ready? Welcome back to Timeline Echo. Today, we step into a version of history that was never meant to be read. In the winter of 1693, Isaac Newton locked himself inside his study at Trinity College. Outside, England slept. Inside, the most disciplined mind in human history began to fracture reality itself. Newton had already discovered calculus, laws of motion, and gravity, but something was wrong. His equations worked perfectly, until they didn't. While experimenting with light and prisms late at night, Newton noticed anomalies he couldn't explain. Light behaved differently when observed closely. Particles seemed to change outcomes depending on measurement. At first he blamed error, then fatigue, then madness. But the patterns returned. Newton began writing equations that contradicted his own laws. Objects that existed in multiple states, energy that appeared in discrete jumps, not smooth flows, probabilities where certainty should exist. These ideas terrified him because they didn't just challenge physics, they challenged God's clockwork universe. Newton believed the universe was a perfectly ordered machine created by God, but these new equations suggested chaos beneath order, a universe that only pretended to be stable. He labeled these pages non publicus, not for the public. Night after night, Newton rewrote reality. He described particles as waves. He wrote of observation altering outcome. He even speculated that space itself was not continuous, but granular, quantized, 3 centuries before Planck. Then came the moment that changed everything. Newton realized that if these ideas were released, they would destroy certainty. Religion would shake. Philosophy would collapse. Science would split. Humanity was not ready for a universe that refused to be predictable. So Newton made a decision. He separated his work. The clean mechanical laws were published. The dangerous ideas were hidden. Newton locked the quantum pages inside coded manuscripts written in alchemical symbols and biblical references. To the world, he remained the father of classical physics. But in private, he feared what he had seen. In one margin note, Newton wrote a sentence history never quoted. Nature does not reveal herself plainly. She whispers in probabilities. After that winter, Newton changed. He withdrew. He stopped publishing radical ideas. He warned colleagues against speculative physics. He chose stability over truth. Because Newton understood something terrifying. If quantum physics had been born in the 17th century, humanity would have gained power without wisdom, and that imbalance could have ended civilization before it truly began. The moment Newton realized what his equations truly implied, fear entered his mind. Not fear of failure, but fear of consequence. 17th century Europe was not ready for uncertainty. Science was allowed only because it supported order, predictability, and divine design. The universe was seen as God's perfect machine. Every planet followed a path. Every effect had a cause. Certainty was proof of God. Quantum ideas shattered that illusion. Newton's hidden equations suggested a universe where outcomes were not fixed, where particles behaved differently when watched, where reality itself depended on observation. This was not just bad science in that era, it was heresy. If matter could exist in multiple states, if nature relied on probability, then God's universe was not a clock. It was a gamble. Newton knew what would happen if these ideas escaped his study. He had seen how the Church treated those who questioned certainty. Galileo had been silenced for far less. Newton understood that releasing quantum concepts would not start a scientific debate. It would start a war. So Newton did something unexpected. He turned against his own discovery. Publicly, he became a defender of determinism. He argued for absolute laws. He dismissed speculative physics. He warned young scholars against exploring uncertainty. To the world, he became the guardian of order. Privately, he did the opposite. Newton began encrypting his dangerous knowledge inside writings no one would dare interpret literally. Alchemy, biblical prophecy, coded diagrams, strange symbols. Anyone who read them would dismiss them as madness. That was the point. At night, Newton corresponded secretly with a handful of trusted minds, philosophers, mathematicians, mystics, testing fragments of his ideas without revealing their full implication. Some understood, most recoiled. One response terrified him. A fellow scholar wrote back, "If matter obeys probability, then power belongs not to God, but to those who control observation." That sentence haunted Newton. He realized something deeper. Quantum knowledge was not just dangerous to religion, it was dangerous to humanity. Whoever understood it first could manipulate reality at its most fundamental level. Weapons beyond imagination, control beyond kings, power without morality. Newton made a final decision. He would delay the future. By anchoring science to classical certainty, humanity would develop discipline before power, wisdom before manipulation, structure before chaos. Or so he hoped. In his final private journal, Newton wrote, "There are truths that must wait for minds not yet born." And with that, quantum physics was buried, not lost, but postponed, waiting. Isaac Newton believed he had buried the future. He was wrong. When Newton died in 1727, the world mourned a genius, but no one truly understood what he had left behind. His published works shaped classical physics for centuries, but his private manuscripts, thousands of pages, were sealed, scattered, and misunderstood. Most historians dismissed them as alchemy. Others called them religious obsession. A few noticed something disturbing. The symbols repeated. The numbers aligned too perfectly. The madness followed structure. Across Europe, a small number of thinkers began noticing strange similarities between Newton's secret notes and emerging philosophical questions. Why did light behave differently at small scales? Why did matter refuse to behave like solid objects under extreme conditions? These questions weren't new. They were echoes. By the late 1800s, as classical physics began cracking under unexplained experiments, scientists unknowingly walked the same path Newton had abandoned. Blackbody radiation failed. The photoelectric effect made no sense. Reality refused to stay predictable. And then, quantum physics was officially born. Max Planck, Einstein, Bohr. They believed they were discovering something entirely new. But imagine this. What if they weren't discovering, but recovering? Newton's sealed manuscripts resurfaced quietly in private collections. A few scholars gained access. One physicist reportedly stopped his research after reading a translated page claiming, "This knowledge arrived before its time." Newton had written about probability long before statistics existed, about observation altering outcomes long before wave functions were named, about nature hiding behind uncertainty long before modern mathematics could describe it. But here's the most unsettling part. One diagram appeared again and again across Newton's hidden notes, a symbol resembling a branching reality, splitting with every observation. Not metaphorical, mathematical. The idea was terrifying. Reality didn't choose a single outcome. It divided. Centuries later, scientists would call it the many worlds interpretation. Newton had drawn it in the 1600s. If this knowledge had been released then, humanity might have reached quantum power without ethical foundations. No philosophy to guide it, no restraint to control it. Nuclear weapons before moral responsibility, reality manipulation before wisdom. Perhaps Newton didn't delay science, perhaps he saved humanity from itself. Yet the question remained, if Newton saw this future, did he also see what comes after quantum understanding? In the final unreadable margins of his journals, there were warnings, not equations. Knowledge accelerates faster than morality. Power reveals character, not intelligence. The universe does not punish ignorance, it punishes arrogance. Newton may have discovered quantum physics first, but he also discovered something else. Some truths don't destroy worlds when they are false. They destroy worlds when they are understood too early. Imagine Newton had made a different choice. Imagine the forbidden pages were not hidden, but published. The year is 1694. Europe is still ruled by kings, churches, and empires built on certainty. And suddenly, a book appears, written by the most respected mind alive, declaring that reality itself is uncertain. Particles exist in multiple states. Observation changes outcomes. Probability, not certainty, rules nature. The effect would have been immediate and catastrophic. Religion would fracture overnight. The Church's authority rested on a predictable universe designed by God. Quantum uncertainty would feel like an attack on divine order. Some priests would call Newton a heretic. Others would twist his ideas to claim God existed outside reality itself. Faith wouldn't disappear. It would splinter. Then comes power. Kings and generals would realize something terrifying. If reality could be influenced by observation, then control no longer required armies alone. It required knowledge. Whoever understood quantum behavior first could design weapons no one could comprehend. Devices based on probability, not force. War would change before humanity understood restraint. Imagine empires experimenting with quantum effects without ethics. Cities destroyed not by explosions, but by instability. Matter behaving unpredictably, energy appearing where it shouldn't. Warfare would become invisible, untraceable, unstoppable. And society would collapse under uncertainty. The average human mind in the 17th century needed absolutes. Heaven, hell, cause, effect. Remove certainty, and you remove stability. Philosophy would spiral. Law would fail. If outcomes are probabilistic, how do you judge guilt? If observation alters reality, what does truth even mean? Science itself might not survive. Without mathematical maturity, quantum ideas would become mysticism. Charlatans would claim control over reality. Cult leaders would rise, promising salvation through quantum faith. Knowledge would spread faster than understanding. Newton saw this future, a world where power arrived before wisdom, where technology outran morality, where humanity learned how to manipulate reality before learning how to govern itself. This is why Newton chose silence. By delaying quantum physics, humanity first learned discipline through classical laws. It learned structure, engineering, responsibility. Only then, centuries later, did it approach uncertainty with caution. And even now, we struggle. Perhaps the most unsettling thought is this: what if modern humanity is still not ready? Quantum power today drives nuclear weapons, quantum computing, surveillance beyond imagination, and yet ethics still lags behind capability. Control grows faster than wisdom. Newton didn't just hide equations, he hid a warning that the greatest danger is not ignorance. It is knowledge arriving before character. Centuries after Isaac Newton's death, humanity finally reached the edge he once stood upon. Quantum physics became real. Particles existed in superposition. Observation altered outcomes. Reality bent under mathematics. And suddenly, Newton no longer looked ancient. He looked early. Modern scientists believed they had unlocked the deepest layer of reality, but the deeper they went, the more unstable the world felt. Quantum computers threatened encryption. Quantum weapons hinted at wars no one could trace. Reality itself seemed fragile, probabilistic, uncertain. And that's when historians re-examined Newton. Not the polished textbooks, not the statues, but the private notes. The warnings stood out more than the equations. Newton never wrote, "This knowledge will save the world." He wrote, "This knowledge will test it." Because Newton understood something timeless. Power does not ask whether humanity is ready. It only asks whether humanity is willing. Today we stand where Newton once stood, facing truths that can reshape reality itself. The question is no longer whether quantum power exists. It does. The question is whether wisdom can catch up before control becomes obsession. Newton delayed quantum physics not because he feared truth, but because he feared us. He feared a species intelligent enough to manipulate reality, yet immature enough to misuse it. And looking at the modern world, one has to wonder, was he wrong? Or was he warning us across time? In one final margin note, barely readable, Newton wrote words that history ignored. The universe is subtle, but not malicious. It is humanity that must choose what it becomes. Perhaps Newton's greatest discovery wasn't gravity, or motion, or calculus. It was restraint. Because sometimes the most powerful decision a genius can make is not to reveal everything he knows, but to wait until the world is ready to understand it. And maybe, just maybe, the future is still deciding whether we are. If this story made you question history, science, and the future of humanity, subscribe to Timeline Echo. Here we don't just tell stories, we explore the consequences of knowledge itself.